Viewers, come one, come all. This is IT Live at 9:30 in the morning, Monday through Thursday. I am here with Ian Boyd. We are always on Wednesday, and we go more in depth into the scheme, really kind of talking the details of last week's matchup and then what that can mean going forward. So we will chat with Ian here in a second, but first, let's take a look on today's show. Texas as a national contender. Ian had a nice hot take last week, and we're going to see if that continues after watching the Michigan game. Texas defensive line answered questions. We've had some questions this offseason replacing Murph and Sweat. It looks like Texas was able to answer some of those versus Michigan. And then the Texas run game. You know, we're down our lead back, but we saw Texas be able to do some power running in the red zone with Jarrett Gibson. That was reassuring. And then let's be honest, barring some weird stuff, this Texas schedule minus the usual rivalry games in Georgia is actually shaping up nicely for us. So we're going to kind of talk about the Texas schedule moving forward and how we could have an easier path to some big wins down the road. Ian, how art thou?
I'm doing good.
Good stuff.
How are you?
Even keel. I'm doing well, man. Getting the show ready this morning, all that, but
I like how the Longhorn rack behind you is like it fits perfectly over your head, like some kind of Viking warlord.
Yep. Yeah. I hunted that Longhorn personally. That's my own mount. It's not legal per se, you know, but if you see a good one in the field, I mean, you got to put them on the wall. That's actually that's my great aunt's old Longhorn thing, and it's actually my great grandfather's ranch brand under that. So it was a cool thing to keep in the family. But yeah, I got the background set up. All right, and I know everyone was super excited to hear about my background, but let's start with Texas as a national contender. So last week you said, paraphrasing, if Texas is able on offense to slice up the Michigan defense in the passing game, then that's a great sign of things to come. Something along Texas would be in the national championship or something like that. After watching, do you feel that we overvalued Michigan, or do you stay strong there that was a really good defense and that our passing game is elite?
I'm a hesitant yes that was the right indication. That I said was, if Texas goes in there and Quinn throws for like 400 passing yards and just destroys them, then you're looking at a runaway national championship favorite for this season.
And we didn't do 400.
Yeah, they also didn't need to. So
right.
That part is a little bit complicated. There's also like Texas was 10 for 16 on third down. So there was a little bit of like it wasn't exactly that they eviscerated Michigan. They were just very pinpoint, and I don't know. They weren't super explosive. They were just very precise, right?
Right. Surgical.
Yeah, like they were rocket surge doing the Tom Herman dreaded rocket surgery.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite there on offense, but I think it was pretty positive. We'll talk later about the defense might have been a little bit more encouraging, honestly, than the offense, even though I know Michigan's quarterback and passing game was not up to snuff to give Texas a game.
Yeah.
I still think we saw some things there that we'll get into that are pretty darn positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian is super chill. Do you even get mad? But honestly, I've never even seen Ian perturbed. Ian, will you answer? Are you a monster off camera?
No, I'm pretty chill. There's this one time that my wife could tell you about where our dog ran out the house, like one of the toddler like let the dog out, and she just runs and runs, and she's not trying to get away. She wants you to chase her.
Yeah.
She'll like come back until you try to chase her again and run. And so she goes out and she's doing that, and I'm chasing her around the neighborhood, and it starts raining and pouring. And I was so mad when I brought her in. I like threw her into her crate. And I was like, no one speak to me for half an hour. But even then, I don't know if it was super obvious that. So
I've never noticed it in however many 3 years, 4 years of working together. You seem pretty unshaken by most things.
It's all internal. It's all bubbling up.
Yeah, yeah. You'll freak out eventually. You'll snap eventually. Brett Nelson, thank you for the super chat. Ian, how do you see the OU and Ags games going now?
Too early to say. I mean, A&M in particular, it's like a year, you know. Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma is in a lot of trouble against Texas. They're going to be a different team in that game than we have seen to date. But it's also like Oklahoma fans will be like, we have a lot of time. We got to get our offensive linemen back, maybe get one or two of these receivers back, and we can be a different team. And they could be a lot better. They could also get their quarterback killed behind this line in the next few weeks and be a much worse team.
And generally, teams statistically, like if you're like the worst in the nation at third down, you're not going to go to a top 20. Like you're going to be bad at third down for the entire season. So like, even though you're going to have little personnel improvements, Nick Anderson coming back, something like that, it doesn't matter. Third downs are generally some fundamental issue. Because like I always preach, if you're bad on third downs and you're in third and longs, it's always a problem on first down. It's a compounding issue. And that hints at something more global in play calling or a bad practice structure.
Do you know who they remind me of in Texas's relatively recent past? Can you guess which year of Texas this Oklahoma team reminds me of?
No.
2017.
2017. What year was that?
2017
years.
That was year one of Tom Herman. They have one of the worst offensive lines we've ever seen in Burnt Orange. And they've got just a revolving door of characters across the line. Like Terrell Cooney was a prominent character. Denzel Okafor played left tackle for 2 games, I think. Tristan Nicholson was like the guy that kept playing. That was like, surely we shouldn't have to play Tristan Nicholson, right? And then the next week it's like this, we have to play Tristan Nicholson. This is Derek Kerstetter was the right tackle, and Buechele got like killed in week 1. Sam Ehlinger has to play the whole season almost. He gets a concussion. But then meanwhile, Texas has this like NFL rich defense and the greatest punter of all time. Right. That Oklahoma's team kind of reminds me of that, only they don't have the greatest punter of all time. And right now they're not getting the Sam Ehlinger hero ball from their quarterback. We'll see if they turn to that freshman. Maybe they will. And that Texas team gave Oklahoma all they wanted somehow. So you got to be.
Yeah, but you turn. I mean, just as far as like, can you turn into the freshman with legs at OU? I mean, benching Jackson Arnold. I mean, they let Dylan Gabriel head out for him. I mean, oof, that would be a big loss. Because they hitched their wagons there to Arnold. So letting the second string in would be interesting, man.
They may not have to, because he might just get killed in the next couple of weeks, and then it's. But the right play is actually to try to stick it out with Arnold and not chase short-term wins with the running freshman. Right. But he doesn't have receivers. He doesn't have a run game. He doesn't have protection. So it's a mess.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going to be able to do there at all. And then Texas. All right, back on that.
You just hate to see it.
Yeah, it keeps me up at night. It really bothers me. And then, of course, the concept of just like, doesn't matter. They're going to show up. I don't know, man. You can't just like turn an offense that's performing that bad, that good. So there's the jinx. Let's see. Johnny. Ian, it doesn't seem like we've taken as many vertical shots this year as we did up to this point last year. Why do you think that is? Don't need to, saving it?
So Michigan played back. Michigan played too high in the freaking red zone. So like there's a reason Texas didn't get off many deep shots against Michigan, is because they weren't there.
Yeah.
It was all underneath. Like there's the reason they threw the ball like 10 times to the running backs. There's a reason the Gunnar Helm had almost 100 receiving yards. It's that Michigan was like, we're going to make you prove you can work your way down the field throwing underneath. And then Texas did very efficiently. So the bet didn't pay off. What was week one was Colorado State. Colorado State played pretty back as well.
Yeah, of course.
They usually had like they had like a deep safety that would just like drop to Liberty Hill. I could see him from my house,
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like Alabama played quarters against Texas, and Texas was able to get shots lined up against Alabama. And then after that, everyone was like, well, we're not going to do that again. Like if Alabama
quarters fans is, you hear people call it cover four. It's not truly a cover four. It's basically anytime receivers go deep, it converts to man. So there's a lot of little schemes and stuff where you can basically X out the safety by sending the slot vertically or hold him down, make him on a sit route, make the safety sit there, and then you can do some type of post with the outside receiver on the corner. But generally, we've seen people sitting back in kind of true zone looks. And also, I mean, I don't think the post or the go ball has been Quinn's strength historically. There's a lot of things he's improved on, maybe that. So I think also, too, it's like, why do we need to kind of spam those deep shots, which were frustrating? Sark would throw them too much. Whenever Quinn is elite in the intermediate, man, just let him hit that 15-yarder and they'll keep running for another 10.
They did hit one. The first third down against Michigan, they had Isaiah Bond run a out and up double move, and Quinn nailed it before the safety could get there.
Yeah.
But that was like a 20, 30-yard throw. He got hit after the ball arrived, so it wasn't a run and catch down the field. But
yeah, that was like one of those things where your quarterback was about an inch from getting him killed, but it was perfect timing to where Bond didn't have to get smacked by that safety.
Yeah, we'll see more if teams challenge Texas. I don't know what teams are going to do, honestly. I'm not sure what the best way to play this team is right now. So
it's because make them dink and dunk, right? But we're proving that the Big 12 training has made us proud. We're prepared to take 6 yards and 6 yards. There's a lot of importance placed on Coach Sark consistently having an 1,000-yard rusher. The offense will most certainly be more pass-heavy this year. However, do you think UT would be better with Jaden Blue, Trey Wisner, and Jarrett Gibson all rushing for 600 or Blue rushing for 1,000?
Does not matter. That's just a recruiting gimmick. It doesn't actually matter for the functioning of the offense.
Sark loves it though, man. He pitches it. People don't even have to bring it up to him. He'll bring it up. Yeah,
but the thing that Sark cares about is being a team that can run the ball, and like when teams drop their safeties back and having that physicality and dimension. And then the really easy way to point to like, hey, we are a physical team and we run the ball is when you have a 1,000-yard rusher.
Do you think there's value in the 1,000-yard
PR for the brand, Yeah.
You think there's value in the 1,000-yard rusher because they're getting so much consistent reps that they can develop quicker versus when you have a bunch of 600-yarders, everyone's pretty good but kind of not able to reach max potential?
I doubt it. I mean, like, I don't know if Georgia had a 1,000-yard rusher last year, and I don't think anybody was super worried about Georgia's run game last year, except for people that would be like, they don't have a 1,000-yard rusher, it must not be very good, right?
Yeah, Georgia's bad. They didn't get 1,000. But
sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. You got to think about this Texas team this year as being much more pro style, like running back by committee. Dink and dunk or carefully orchestrated offensive sets to get guys open underneath. Quarterback centric offense. So I think when you view it from that sort of prism, then it's less concerning if there is or isn't a 1,000-yard rusher. Also, there might be, who knows? Like Blue's not been healthy. Maybe Jarrett Gibson ends up taking over and running for 1,000 yards. We don't really know at this point.
Just get an all-purpose guy. So get Blue, 300 receiving, and then Sark can still say 1,000 yards of production because that does seem to matter to him in pressers. Can you guys discuss Texas' second half 7-6 performance? I thought it was because Sark took his foot off the pedal, but his presser suggested otherwise. Thoughts?
Are they referring to like him saying that they want to subject opponents to 60 minutes of
I think
hell
so.
and
Yeah.
not living up to that standard.
Yeah.
He's just looking for something to keep his team motivated. It's completely irrelevant. They completely destroyed Michigan. They played backups. There was a drive where Texas scored to make it 31-6, right? 31, right? And then Michigan gets the ball, and then they throw a pick to Derek Williams. And then Texas has the ball in midfield. And I'm turning to Joe in the press box, and I'm like, double move, play action, something. They're just going to go try to – you can just score here and put your foot on the neck, right? And then what Sark does is he calls 3 runs and he punts.
Yeah.
And he was like, we already won this game. I'm not putting out anything else on film. I'm not doing it. Him squandering that field position tells you it was over, and they had basically stopped trying. And then we started seeing second team Texas defenders for the rest of the game. So he's just trying to keep his team sharp. There was nothing wrong with Texas's performance in the second half.
Yeah. I definitely get annoyed by it. So I'll take the opposite approach of Ian here. So Sark's had issues in the second half, going back for like 3 years. Ones that stick out is like West Virginia, right? We don't often win the second half. We kind of do this thing. Like there's this magic number with Sark. Like if he can hit like 31 in the first half, it's like he stays in that 30 to 40 range. He doesn't want to go that crazy unless it's Tech and somebody that he has a vendetta against. But I do agree, like he'll run it up on you then. But otherwise, he plays this kind of NFL clock control style, and he's like 31, you're not coming back. So it does frustrate me in the second half that we don't tend to do that. But it's mostly because I just want to see execution look good, especially coming out of like the middle 8 in the second half. And then once we start putting in second and third stringers, I get it. We're not going to be that efficient, but I do want to see us in the second half more consistently, only because of the past 3 years of having some issues in the second half. Of course, teams coming back on us and that kind of stuff. I would like the killer mentality, and it does frustrate me when a coach says something like, "We need to have the killer mentality," but flip side, we run 3 runs and punt. So if you want the killer mentality or the killer instinct, that's great, but it has to be backed up play call wise as well. So that's the only part that I can get frustrated with is when there's mixed messaging of what we're saying off the field is not matching up necessarily with how we're calling the game on the field.
But Connor, don't you think it's possible that more deliberate pro style mindset is maybe better in the playoff era where you're trying to save your team for a like 16 game season?
That's a good point.
And you don't need style points. You just need the wins.
Yeah.
So like, and also part of the reason that it didn't work as well in the past and they would blow those second half leads is because they didn't have the same precision at quarterback and offensive line, right?
Yeah.
So that they could let teams get back into these games. Whereas now I think he's like, we're beyond that. We're not going to make those big blunders anymore.
I think you're making sense because in the NFL attitude here, like you said, so you can afford to lose 1, maybe 2 games. So that changes a different style. The committee's not doing the dumb style points like where Texas needed to get in the playoffs. It's like we had to run it up on Tech and then run it up on Oklahoma State. So I do think, with the 17 game potentially that, hey, easing off in the second half is valuable. But I just don't want anybody to be able to come back on us. But I think that's an awesome point. I really hadn't even considered changing that style based on the new format.
He talked about how he had talked to Bill Belichick and Andy Reid about like load management, basically. And he's like, because those guys have coached NFL teams that have to play 19 game seasons every freaking year.
Yeah.
Because they're always in the playoffs and they're always making deep runs in the playoffs. And, if you lose Travis Kelce, then Kansas City's cooked, right?
Yeah.
You lose Tom Brady, whatever. So I think he's absolutely like trying to save his studs for the Derby.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a saying, but
now it is. Backup reps are important and even more important versus a team like Michigan. I agree. That's nice to get them reps. in that environment and all that. So yeah, like I said, I'm good with kind of easing off as long as, of course, as long as teams don't come back. But be able to build this depth, like you said, to get these young player reps, that stuff's going to be huge. And then Texas didn't have the secondary in the past. When teams past Texas had trouble. The pass D is a strength now. Other good valid point, right? So last year we would get up on teams and they'd be like, "Oh shucks, we have to pass," and it would work, and they would be able to score like 7 points every 3 plays. So this is the difference. If we actually have the secondary whenever they do come out swinging in the second half to stop that progress, then we're not going to be dealing with teams being so able to get back into the game.
Pass rush too. The pass rush is worlds different. Like
now
you bring in Colin Simmons off the bench and it's a little different than
X player we're not going to name.
Yeah.
That's Colin Simmons, man. Ooh,
even like Finkley looks improved this year. Like they've got guys that they can throw at you.
I actually haven't looked at Finkley specifically. I need to check that out. But before we talk a little bit more, guys, here is a word from our sponsor.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kipling on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
David McClellan, elite swimmer, Texas swimming program, the best. With how bad OU looks, is there a chance that Sark will look ahead to Georgia? I would hope not after how last year ended up, but who knows? Thoughts? I doubt it. I doubt it. Just there's a personal thing there. Remember, Sark ran it up 49-0. I haven't gone back to the Red River since that game. I could. I live in the Dallas area, but I just feel like I saw the most beautiful form of that game at 49-0. I don't know, why would I go back and have to deal with the emotions of not seeing the most beautiful form of it? But it's going to be, I am interested to see how much the tickets are jacked up now too, that we're in the SEC, but I don't see Sark overlooking it. Ian, you said no, but do you have anything you want to add to that or just affirm no?
They cannot afford to lose to Oklahoma. They can afford to lose to Georgia.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Ian, I missed the show this morning. Why did they title the video Ian was wrong about OU? So it wasn't the morning video. It was what you do, the LC show on Monday
night. Yeah,
Monday night. So Ian made a prediction last week that OU would beat Houston. What was you can tell them. Go ahead and tell the audience.
Yeah, I predicted a final score of I think it was 31-6 in Oklahoma's favor over Houston, which was a gross overstatement of Oklahoma's actual ability to control that football game. And so as an apology to Sooner fans, I prepared a written apology that I read aloud. I would encourage all of you to go find it. But I vowed to Oklahoma fans that they could trust me to offer more sober-minded and realistic projections from their team and no more ridiculous optimism.
We're stating OU's ability. Yeah, it was devastating, but Ian manned up and he let OU know that he's going to adjust his expectations and let them know how much worse they are than he initially thought. Big Jake, you're correct. There's over 1,000 of us in here. Go like the video. To everyone looking on or watching on Twitter, go over to YouTube, like the video, then go back to Twitter. Appreciate you guys. All right. So comments have been popping, and so we have not hit kind of the main concept we were going to talk about real quick was Texas defensive line answers questions versus Michigan. So let's pull up your article from a couple days ago. Alrighty. All right, let's scoot on up here. So wild orgy on quarterback power. I think you said this was one of the plays where, yeah, the real moment Michigan was beat. Quarterback power on a 6-man box, no gain. So honest box, meaning that we were not crowding it and stopping it, and we were just able to beat Michigan heads up. Here's the quick version of the play. If y'all remember, Orgy pulls it and he tries to go to the B gap. So be looking towards the bottom of the offensive line there. Cool. And then Benda comes flying in there, misses the tackle, but his read was 100% correct. So what do you want to let the viewers know about what the Texas defensive line was able to show you versus Michigan?
So the big takeaway on this play is that Michigan tried to run downhill on Vernon Broughton, which in the past, for previous opponents, has been a productive pursuit. I think he was better last year, but you could still like move him, and he wasn't consistent about holding the point of attack.
Right. He was more of a pass rusher.
Yeah. Michigan runs downhill on him here. They get zero movement. The pulling guard comes around, and instead of blocking Benda, he sees that the tackle, the 340-pound tackle, is getting stood up by Broughton in the hole. And so he tries to give Broughton an extra push to try to secure that lane. And then Benda races through, and Orgy has to cut back. And then even with the guard didn't do anything. Broughton is still in control. He shucks his blocker. He tackles Orgy himself. That was this was like the biggest fear for Texas this year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they replaced, in my opinion, the two most impactful positions where you need high-level athletes on a college football team are wide receiver and defensive tackle. And Texas sent 5 of those guys to the NFL from last year's team, right? So it was like we knew the overall team could be really good, but do they have that high-end talent at the two most important positions? And Broughton and Collins making that same like senior year leap that Sweat and mostly Sweat, but some of these other Texas guys have done recently. That's huge. That's like, this is like the biggest question is just, we think it's been answered. Maybe Michigan is actually trash this year in the run game, and this isn't actually indicative, but I doubt it. I think they're at least pretty good, and Broughton and Collins have looked very good for 2 weeks in a row now.
Well, and Bronze is he going up against Hinton on that?
Yeah.
Okay, Hinton's an NFL tackle. He's had some problems, like they've said, like mentally, I think he's a 5th-year player. But as far as like measurables, Hinton's an NFL tackle. So if he was able to do that, we'll watch it one more time with that context now. And is Broughton at 3 technique?
Yeah.
Okay, so Broughton's in the B gap towards the bottom of the screen, y'all, of the offensive line. So we'll watch it again. You'll see Benda also come flying in. Okay, so he's B, and then he's able to get into the A, it looks like. And so, yeah, wraps him up. That's solid stuff, man. Ooh-wee. And then here is the diagram of what it looks like. So Broughton is the T at the bottom of the offensive line next to the jack position.
Yep.
So
they're trying to block down, kick out with the fullback, and just block down on the backside and then lead with the guard into the hole. And they don't even get there because the crucial block is on the T on Broughton. Like he needs to get washed down to make room so that you can insert the pulling guard and you can insert the quarterback himself. And just no movement at all whatsoever. You watch like the last couple of weeks, teams are just not getting movement on Texas's defensive tackles.
Yeah. And that's what we absolutely need, because we knew those guys were going to be able to pass rush for us because they're long. Like Broughton was a basketball center. He wanted to be a basketball player. So getting that lower body strength, and then Alfred Collins also was more of a productive pass rusher. But to see these guys being able to anchor and fight aggressively through blocks, that's big. And then you want to talk about some of the kind of unsung heroes of the defensive line that you picked out some key plays for as well.
Baron Sorrell is an extremely good defender on the edge.
Yeah.
Um,
See this play.
On this play, Michigan's going to run counter and pull a guard to kick out the edge, which is Sorrell. And if you watch on bottom, first he shoves the tight end that's trying to double team like Broughton.
Yeah.
And he helps Broughton. Then he takes on the pulling guard and just like stonewalls it, forces the ball inside into the scrum, and it's like 2 yards in a cloud of dust, maybe, is the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, remember year one when we couldn't set the edge to save our lives, dude?
I do remember
that. That's impressive now. And then somebody asked, does Broughton have to go to the NFL?
No. Let's see here.
I don't know how many years he's at.
I think it depends on if he's used a red shirt since 2022. Because he'll actually, does it? This is his 4th year, I believe.
Okay.
I mean, he's going to get a pretty good. I guess this is his 5th year. I think he's going to get a pretty good grade and just go.
Yeah. But also, we've been pretty good at retaining people. So I feel like, we held on to Collins, we held on to Sweat. So I feel like there's always one that we think is going to go, but they don't. Barron looks scary now. It's like he's even bigger. Yeah, man. Talk about mental eval, because I think he came out as a 3-star, and that just matters, man. If you're going to, quote unquote, get guys that aren't highly ranked, it's all about the mental eval, and he's had that 100%. It's kind of like Byron Murphy 3-star, but, if they have that insane drive, you see it doesn't matter. They end up beating out the quote unquote talent. Alfred Collins splits a double team and nearly has a tackle for loss.
When you watch Collins, he usually holds his ground pretty well, but what he really likes to do is use his hands and just like get off blocks. Like you see him like shuck blockers all the time, and he does on this play. He's the 3 technique on the bottom, I believe, on this play, and they try to, or he might be a 5 technique. They try to double him with the like tackle and the tight end, and he's just not having it. He splits the double team. He shoves the guy out of his way, and then he hits the back in the backfield and almost brings him down for like a 2-yard loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
almost got it.
When Michigan tried to run away from him a lot, I think his production has been pretty quiet thus far this year. I don't know what his stats are.
Yeah.
But he has made himself difficult to block on a lot of plays this year. So I think teams are generally haven't been super interested in going his way.
Who has been the most productive transfer at defensive line so far? So interior, I would just have to say Bill Norton, right? As far as holding ground, not as doing anything elite. I also haven't watched Lole enough. Norton's just the one. I don't think we've had a great interior D-line play transfer-wise, but what have you watched more in depth? I haven't sat down and said, hey, I'm going to watch Norton or whatever.
I think Lole's gotten more snaps, and he's been better. Norton certainly gives up 0 ground.
Yeah. I just think of them as kind of bench players, come in and just sit there, be a rock.
Yeah, Lole maybe a little more than that. Lole can go down the line a little bit more.
Okay.
Norton doesn't really move, but for better, for worse.
Yeah. That's honestly all I think of with Norton is just don't get blown off the ball by the double team. But I will go watch Lole more in the tape.
This our guy Shane from the website was pointing out to me this week that Lole was good against Colorado State's outside zone runs.
Okay.
He was able to maintain his gap as it was moving laterally, right? And he noted that Colorado State ran the ball for 200 yards and threw for 180 in their week 2 game. And that Colorado State may be a much better running team this year than we all assumed.
Well, I know when I was watching their head coach's presser in the offseason when I was doing the breakdown. He was obsessed with the run game. He's like, we're an air raid team, but we have to be able to run, because the year prior they couldn't run at all, and so they're always in like 3rd and 8s, and they of course lost.
Yeah.
Is better. Agreed. Cool. Exactly. Good point, Ian. Dirk Vader agrees with you. All right. And then let us go on to, you want to talk the Jarrett Gibson's performance in the run game?
I think we've kind of already touched on it, which is that Texas has kind of a pro-style running back by committee offense right now.
Yeah.
Like they ran the ball well against Michigan when they wanted to situationally, but they did it as like a change up, or they was like, okay, we're in the red zone. Now we got to get big and nasty, and then bring in Gibson. They were throwing to the backs a lot early to avoid Michigan's D tackles.
Mm-hmm.
And all 3 of those guys are good. I don't know if we're going to see a 1,000-yard rusher. We might, because there might be enough volume for it. But they are. They're not like a Cedric Benson type team where it's like 1st and 10. You kind of know what you're getting.
Yeah.
They're much more of a move pieces around, draw up a million schemes, and create all these different angles and advantages, and plug in different guys for different spots sort of team in the run game or the pass game.
Yeah. And we will hit that because me and Ian were talking about this before the show. We kind of had some different points of view, which I think will be interesting. But first, a word from the one and only Luxe.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
LC really missed his calling as an ad man. Yeah. He's got good work. We're going to work on a second round of ad reads. And hopefully we can get him to dress up like each one of the different companies that he's working with. Okay, so the concept of Texas being pro style, and you're going to work on this article. We're trying to kind of hash it out live here, what we kind of think about this. And then we were talking about it before, and this is kind of my point. So chat, let me know what you guys think here as well. I'm interested to hear kind of how it goes. So here's my point. So Ian says we're moving around the chess pieces, right? Trying to find, you got a point?
Go ahead. I was going to say we probably need to explain what we mean by pro style, but it sounds like that's what you're kind of doing. So go ahead.
So Sark, instead of just being a pure system thing, he's purposely, you're seeing it with motion and personnel and formations. He's hunting specific players for instance, number 20 on the Michigan defense got targeted like 10 times. So he'll move things around trying to find specific players. This is much more of a NFL style approach. And so that's what's interesting about what Sark's doing. That's more pro style versus like the spread offense, right? What does the spread offense do opposed to being hunting matchups?
Well, yeah, it could do that, but
yeah,
the main, sorry,
I got you right in your water break.
The main idea of the spread offense is spread them out, mix runs and passes with RPOs and play action, and hit them where they ain't.
Yeah.
It's the big idea. Like their linebacker cannot guard the bubble screen and the inside run at the same time. So make him pick one and then do the other. It's a option football with the forward pass.
Yeah.
Now you can get into matchups. You can isolate particular defenders with that, but it's all very concept based, and you're using space and run pass conflict to do a lot of the heavy lifting. In Sark's offense, they play with condensed sets. They move guys inside. They use multiple formations in personnel groupings. They test, like Sark would be like, hey, if I play with 2 running backs and a tight end, and the 2 running backs are like Quintravion Wisner and Jaden Blue, then they're playing nickel. But now that means I can get big and run the ball inside and not have to worry about an extra defensive tackle.
Yep.
He was playing games like that throughout the game. Like, if I do this, then they're going to match in this personnel. And then if I do this, then I can get this personnel here versus this personnel. And if I run this concept, they're going to run this scheme. So if I look like I'm running this concept, but then do this, then I have an advantage where this guy can get open over here and their guys aren't going to be looking for it. Just all very nuanced stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's not like an RPO where it's like we're going to hit a bubble screen in space, we're going to hit a deep posted space, or we're going to hit an inside run on a light box. It's like I'm going to hit a flat route on a conflicted defender. I'm going to stuff that's honestly less efficient. Like this
also binary.
It's less binary. Is that what you're saying?
No, the non-pro style is the binary. If he's here, then if this, then that. Versus Sark, kind of, even though it's more complex, he ends up in more certain situations.
It's Sark is creating all these little advantages all over the field. And so then you get something like Quinn threw for only 6.8 yards per pass attempt against Michigan, which is honestly kind of low.
Yeah.
But it didn't look inefficient because they hit like everything.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime they needed it, they hit it. And it's more pro style in that instead of a college offense where you're just like creating simple conflicts and then overwhelming teams with like speed and talent, Sark is creating all these little marginal advantages that most college coaches would not be pursuing because they're not as explosive or as efficient.
Yeah.
But that's what you'd have to do in the NFL when you play better teams.
Yeah.
Chat can tell us if that was a very helpful, succinct explanation.
Yeah, chat, let us know if we're talking nonsense or not. But my point was, when we were talking about it before, so this is very nuanced, and it takes a really great understanding of the other team's personnel, like who their weaknesses are. Hey, we need to throw at number 20. But it also takes a really intimate knowledge of their scheme. AKA, if I come out in 12 personnel, they're going to match it in base, and then they're going to have the tight end. They're going to play man, and so I'm going to be able to run this route with the tight end with this personnel. So that's 3 things that have to be correct and 3 things that have to go your way. And it can become more complicated than that, where 6 different metrics have to be met for this play to happen. My question was, is this a week in, week out ability, or is this you knew you were playing Michigan in week 2, and so you got months to really become comfortable exactly knowing that me making this move is going to result in Michigan making this move, and then it's a chain down effect? Or do you have to simplify it, say it's game 8, and you don't have as much time to intimately understand a system? So do you see these matchups as cool and as efficient as they were in Michigan in the middle of the season? That we can't answer this. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and bet that Sarkisian is better than me at figuring that out. So I bet he's a little faster than me there for his $10 million a year. But I was just kind of curious, when so many things have to go right to hunt these matchups, does that increase the degree of difficulty, therefore taking more time?
There's like the NFL would play it this way, right? The difference between what would make it harder in college is your staff is recruiting much of the time, whereas the NFL, they are not. It's an enormous difference in terms of the time that they have available to them. Your players are taking classes and are college students, and some of them are like learning your offense and learning the position. So to move a level beyond where they like understand defenses and can master like complex game plans is depends a lot. So there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't do this every week. On the other hand, Texas has veterans at quarterback, tight end, offensive line. and they have support staffers that can do some of the scouting work on behalf of Sark and his coaches that have to recruit. So for sure, we've seen that Sark, like Michigan, got more focus than most of the teams on the schedule will. But it's like, could he devise game plans that are this complex and multi-layered? Well, no. I think the answer is no. Can he be like pro style and intricate on a week by week basis though, even if he's not quite at this level? Maybe.
Yeah. And also, do you need to be that intricate, right? When you're facing like a Mississippi State, you might not need to break out the Georgia level of focus. And so that'll be interesting too. So it's whatever he has circled: OU, A&M, Arkansas. I mean, we have actually a lot of games that'll be so circled emotionally, but really Georgia's the one that's going to be circled for their difficulty.
You gotta also, it's like which Michigan is pro style on defense. Like they have a lot of concepts on defense that you have to worry about that they are able to execute at a high level. A lot of college defenses are like, man, if we can just play quarters and not let somebody run free.
Exactly.
And we've given ourselves a chance.
One Wink too, right? Wink came from the Giants. Sark, of course, was at the Falcons. So it was cool to see two former NFL coordinators as well go at each other. And I also feel like it can almost, the NFL is so tight and efficient and they bust less. I feel like they're easier to read than some college offenses because the safety will just do something weird that makes no sense and kind of break the play, at the college level. So it's interesting to see two NFL caliber coordinators kind of go at each other. But yeah, that's going to be interesting. We'll see. You'll keep writing your article. We'll get your full thoughts on it if we're going to be able to match up hunt like that. But it was really an awesome kind of masterclass from Sark. And it will be interesting to see. I know he'll definitely break all that out versus UTSA. So I'm super excited. Do you think we see anything scheme related until Oklahoma? Or do you think we're going to be running counter and sail?
Probably. I mean, UTSA is like a 3-down team.
Yeah, they base.
So we'll see whatever maybe they'll do flyover 3 high safety against Texas. So maybe we'll see Sark dust off like the Big 12 personnel where he plays with 6 linemen or stuff like that, where you can like kind of get after a 3-down team.
Yeah.
So they'll probably have stuff like that, but they'll also actually Sark isn't really a hold it back kind of guy. Because part of him is the kind of guy that's like, I'm going to run a ton of stuff out there and make Brent Venables and his defenders study it all and memorize it on film.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the other hand, they did last year. So maybe this time you're like, oh, they can actually do that. We don't want to.
Yeah. So it's like either, I think not showing it and showing it both have the same effect. Like not showing it, they're not going to have any time to study for it. So they're double in trouble. But the flip side, if you do show it, you're at least making them waste time and mental capacity that week that they could be spending on more core concepts. So putting stuff on tape has its advantages because you're going to waste 3 hours that they could have spent on something else, but also never showing it at all. That guarantees they have no inoculation to the concept.
Can you put up that Ashley comment about the OU fan base?
OU fan base said Venables only prepares for Texas and no one else.
There used to be like a, I want to say 2002, 2001 Oklahoma defensive playbook that you could download on the internet. And it was like their whole deal. And in the playbook, it said that every single week, this is Bob Stoops and Brent Venables was there either as a linebackers coach or the full-blown defensive coordinator. I don't remember what year it was, but around that era. And Stoops' like program was every single week of the season, no matter who we're playing, we're going to work on we're going to work on Texas and we're going to work on Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And that was like a part of their deal. And it was fine. I mean, they blew out other teams in the Big 12 even without that extra focus. But that has always been a part of their deal. And you hear like Urban Meyer talk about Michigan, and he's like, every day of the calendar year, your team needs to be doing something that's going to help them beat Michigan that season. So that 100%, I don't think it's that is the sort of attention that Texas is getting from Oklahoma. It's probably the attention that Oklahoma is getting from Texas as well. Mac Brown had to adjust to this.
Yep.
It used to be like, how is Texas like a 10-win team, but they can't play within 30 points of Oklahoma? It's like, this is why. It's because they treated Oklahoma like a big game, and Oklahoma treated Texas like it was this season hinged on it.
Yeah. That is interesting. I didn't know that they, literally in their text of their playbook, they were talking about that strategy. Let's look at the coming schedule. So I'm gonna be honest, I think Texas got a really good draw here. Let's see. All right.
I was talking on, I went on the MGO blog radio channel on last Friday before the game, and my guy Seth Fisher at Michigan was pointing out that the SEC had cleared the road for any like marginal sort of playoff contender. So like you look at the schedules for like Tennessee, Missouri, and Ole Miss and Texas, teams that are all like pretty good and could maybe make the playoffs. They all got them like the easiest possible SEC schedules. And then a team like Oklahoma that everybody knew was not going to be a playoff team this year, they're like, screw them. Send them through the gauntlet.
They gave Georgia an incredibly hard schedule, though. They play us, they play Bama, they play Ole Miss. Like Georgia, like finally from years of pretty much getting light schedules and just having to show up for the SEC championship, they're like, all right, you guys are going to have to go through an absolute gauntlet. But it is interesting.
They might have been like, Georgia's okay, they'll handle it. But we got to protect Tennessee and Texas and Ole Miss and see if we can get them all in the playoffs.
Yeah. So here's the coming schedule. UTSA is really bad, barring some weird, plucky, Rudy story. UTSA is a win. ULM actually 2-0 right now, I believe. That will not continue. Easy stuff there. Mississippi State, we saw them versus Arizona State. They have no run defense. Oklahoma always going to be tough just because of the nature of it. But let's also be honest, Oklahoma hasn't looked this vulnerable since year one of Venables, which is only 2 years ago. So it's probably not a great mark there, but they just don't look great. Georgia, light work. I mean, Georgia is just, that's an automatic W. But Georgia, of course, is the premier one. We could legitimately have number 1 and number 2 in the country. Same weekend, F1 is there. That's going to be incredible. But that's your big game you have to circle. Vanderbilt, historically, not a good team, but their quarterback, what is it, Pavia? He's showing some of that Sam Ellinger heart and doing some good work, but that should be a win. Florida looks to be not doing well. Arkansas, I like them. I like their running back, former Texas player, and then their quarterback, kind of a 2 running back backfield. So good athletes, but blew it versus Oklahoma State. Kentucky, we were scared, kind of trap game-ish, right? They get blown out against South Carolina. They look awful. Texas A&M loses to Notre Dame. Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois. So emotionally, that'll be a tough game because it's a rivalry. But if we're purely just looking at statistical output, taking away the emotions of rivalry games here, I mean, Georgia's the big game. Everybody else is far below Texas in statistical output.
Yeah. They got one. They have one team on the schedule left that has any kind of realistic expectation of being in the playoff rankings at the end of the season.
Yeah. So it's like the schedule is lined up really nice for us as well. And also, it's just like barring any super weird stuff. I mean, you're in the playoffs. You can lose to Georgia. You could possibly lose a second game here too if it's close enough. But it's just, I mean, that's a smooth schedule, dude. There's not much more analysis that needs to go into it than just like, hey, we're not playing Bama, we're not playing Ole Miss. Like, yeah, we're going to have some emotional Arkansas, Oklahoma, A&M games. But if we take away that kind of aspect of it, these aren't very good teams left on the schedule.
All the more reason to they get a bye week before they play Oklahoma, right? If you scroll up.
Yep.
So then the question is, do you use that bye week to sneak in some Georgia prep, or do you just like double down on Oklahoma? Maybe they'll do a little Georgia, but I would double down on Oklahoma and just try to beat their doors off. And if you lose to Georgia, it doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah, you can face them again in the championship, and almost it's harder to beat.
Face them again in the playoffs too. You can play them 3 times.
Yeah, and so it's like, but that's also too like you beat. It makes me nervous, right? Like you beat Georgia. Well, the odds of beating Georgia again in the conference championship goes down. So it's like, man, maybe you take the 3-point loss to Georgia, and then you get the heroic comeback in the SEC championship game. And of course, we're talking way too far ahead right now, but we're not coaches. We're allowed to look ahead. But that's kind of the interesting part too. But it'd be tricky to beat Georgia regular season and turn around and beat them in the conference game too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. Interesting schedule. A lot of emotionality, clearly, but it's gonna be impressive. As far as like, do you focus on Oklahoma? Yeah, I think you just have to, because Sark. At that point, Sark would be 1-3 versus OU.
Yeah, unforgivable.
Yeah. The ultimate sin.
Do you remember last year? I was like, I just doesn't quite feel right for if Texas could win the national championship for it to come in a season where they didn't beat Oklahoma.
Yeah,
it feels like unearned.
Yeah, and that's also the Oklahoma fans would be like, you could win the championship, and all you'd hear from the Oklahoma fans is like, yeah, but we still beat you.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting with OU. Who are they playing? They're about to play Tulane, right? That's not a give me.
Yeah, things about to go real.
You cracked me up on Monday when you said, yeah, they need to practice. I don't care if they're playing Maine next week. They need the reps. They do.
I think it goes Tulane at Auburn, and then Tennessee at home, and then bye, and then Texas.
They got a schedule, man.
They also, if you look at their schedule, they play like 4 different SEC teams who are coming off byes.
Oof.
There is a reason they gave Venables that extension before the season.
Yeah.
It's because they knew they couldn't give it to him after.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think OU admin plays that, right? Say they have a really bad season in year 3.
I was talking to somebody who probably doesn't want me to mention their name in the Oklahoma world. And I was like, okay, if Venables goes 5-7, and they're like, calm down. Oklahoma's not going 5-7. It's not that time to panic like that yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, hypothetically. And they thought that they would still just fire him if he cratered that badly.
In year 3, you think they'd get rid of him after the extension? But also, that was a fake extension. They gave him like $8 more. That was more of just like a sign of like a vote of confidence, which is also not a good sign.
Yeah, it would cost more to fire him after this season because of the extension. He said 9. I defer to that, I guess. So it's like it wasn't an extension that made firing him prohibitive. It's hard for me to believe that he's going to be on the hot seat, that he could really be fired if he's 5-7 this year. But honestly, that would probably be the right play. Because like normally you would say like, well, let's give him another year with his own players and Jackson Arnold as an experienced player. But if they go 5-7 and they keep looking like they have, it's like something went terribly wrong and this guy's not ready to oversee this big of a program. And so like you could wait for that next year and let things deteriorate worse. Or you could just pull the plug and not chase bad money, right?
And they can start the PR process as well of like, well, we're doing bad in the SEC, but we're having to rebuild right now. And you can kind of play that game as well. So that's going to be, but yeah, that would be a crazy move if they actually went ahead and did that. Fans, any final questions for me and Ian? Hop off. We have to go film with Paul. We have to go film deep dive.
Woodyard says, can you put that up? I don't have these powers.
Yep. I live in Oklahoma. They're talking about firing BB and Luttrell. they're pissed at Josie for not hiring outside of the program for OC.
So 2 thoughts here. One is that I wrote when they hired Venables on my Substack, americaswargame.substack.com.
Check it out.
The article is called like Oklahoma's dying coaching tree orchard or something. And I was like, them going to Venables, they're like so cemented on like, we have to stay in this Bob Stoops coaching tree. We can't overturn everything like we did in the 90s. Like we need to try to see this out. But I was like, it's not going to work. Y'all need to find a new coach and start over from outside the tree.
Right. That is true that they're obsessed with that for some reason.
It's because the 90s were so bad for them. And they're like, when we don't have stability at the top, we are a mess.
Yeah.
So I think that the faster that they get there, probably the better. Because I don't think it's going to work with Venables, obviously. I've never really thought it was likely to work. If they fire Luttrell, that's whatever, actually. If they fire Bill Biedenbow after this season, oh my gosh. And then they keep Venables.
Yeah.
I don't think they're
see that's the typical like
that's the stupidest thing they could possibly do.
Yeah. But you're in trouble. Like once you see them start jettisoning coordinators, that's the death knell before it goes bad. They're always like, oh, it's not the head coach, it's the coordinators, and they already got rid of OC to go to Mississippi State. But once they start, I mean, that was Texas special, man. We'd be bad fire the coordinators, and then wonder why the team got worse because there's zero stability.
Yep.
All right. We don't want to keep Paul waiting. Fans, thank you so much for watching. We will have another episode tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Ian, are you going to be on tomorrow? I think so. Should be with Joe, Justin, and Ian tomorrow, 9:30 to 10:30. So make sure you guys watch that. And then I will see you guys again for the pregame on Saturday. Make sure to tune in. We will also have a postgame. And then, of course, I'll be back on Monday with Eric and Charlie. So, fans, thank you for watching. Have a good one, y'all.